Welcome students, this is Mr. Gee with a video to help you get ready for a retake on the midterm that we had a couple of weeks ago. I know we've done one retake on it and some of you still had a difficult time with it, so hopefully with this tutorial video it'll help you iron out some things that you may be doing wrong that will help you get a better score and improve your grade before the end of the term. First of all, we'll go ahead and start with 1, 2, 3, and 4. One thing that some of you are doing wrong with simplifying expressions, an expression is not an equation. You don't solve for x or you don't solve for v on these two problems. You just simply have to distribute the outside term into the inside two terms in the parentheses. So this is just a really basic problem. It wasn't meant to confuse anybody. So let's go ahead and get started here. So I'm going to take a negative 7v and I'm going to times it to a negative 8v, and then I'm going to add it. I'm going to take another 7v and times it to a 5. Now we know that negative times a negative is a positive, so that should give you a 56, and then v times v is v squared. And now for this next part, you could write it as a negative 5 times negative 7 times 5 would give you a negative 35, and then the v just comes forward. Now there's a couple of ways you could write this. You can keep the positive or the addition sign there. You can write it like that, or you can write it as 56 v squared minus 35v. Okay, for the next one it's kind of the same thing. I've got 7x times an x plus a negative 7x times 10. Negative 7, and then x times x is x squared, then I have a negative 7 times 10. That would give me a negative 70x. So those are your two answers for problems 2 and problem number 1. Okay, down here at, for 3 and 4. These are a little bit harder. We do have to solve these for x on 3, 4, 5, and 6. They are equations, and we spent a lot of time relearning how to do equations so far this quarter. I'm going to make this pen just a little bit smaller. Okay, so let's do number 3. Now before you start solving, this is where some of you get lost on this. You're trying to go through the solving steps by subtracting 3 and subtracting 7, and that's not the way it works. It's really kind of hard to do it that way. So what you want to do is you want to combine these two like terms together before you start your solution steps. So I'll have 7 plus 3 plus 7 will give me a 10, and then I have a negative 8v, and then on the other side a negative 3v and a negative 10. Now there was one worksheet that we did. It was called solving equations with variables on both sides, and so this is where we learned how to do these. I'm going to take the variable on the right to 0. I'm going to add the 3v. Do you see the additive inverse? The same numbers are there and they should differ by a sign. And whatever I put here, I have to do it to the other side. The integer math, I can't go 3 minus 8, but I can go 8 minus 3 will give me a 5. And then you keep the negative sign because the 8 is a bigger digit than the 3. Now let's do the number here. I want to get this 10 to go to 0. It is a positive 10. So I do the negative 10 to here. That goes to 0. And then I do the negative 10 to the other side to balance the equation. Now since both these numbers here are negative, not like this where they're different signs, both these are negative, I add them together, I get a negative 20. So now this equation becomes a negative 5v equals a negative 20. Now I simply divide by the negative 5 to each side. And so I get the fact that v equals 4 is the answer to that one. Let's go over to number 4. Now number 4 is a much easier problem. We don't have to collect like terms. We don't have to distribute. All we have to do is just start the solving steps. So I want this one to go to 0. It's a negative 1, so I will keep the 1 and then change the sign. Then I do it to the other side to balance the equation. The negative 4n, I need to do a positive 4n. Add those together, they go to 0. That doesn't go to 0 there, that goes to 10, sorry. And then do it to the other side, a positive 4n. So 4n plus n is 5n. So now 5n is equal to 10. Divide each side by 5. I get n equals 2. So there we have that one. So let's take a look at what we have so far. So we've got 56v squared minus 35v and negative 7x squared minus 70x. Some of you people would leave the x off the last term of the binomial here. You've got to have it all, people. If you miss one thing, it's wrong. I'm sorry. And so down here we ended up with v equals 4 and n equals 2. Okay, let's go down to 5 and 6. These are definitely the hardest ones on the test. Let me get my picture a little bit larger here. Okay, number 5. Definitely the hardest problem on the test. We have to distribute on both sides, and we have to collect like terms on both sides. You always distribute before you collect. 2 times 8 is 16. 2 times m is a 2m. Nothing to do on the 4m yet. So I distributed. Now let's distribute on the right hand side. A negative 8 times 1 is a negative 8. Negative 8 times a negative 2 is a positive 16m. And then the 4 is just out there waiting for me to do collect like terms. So 2m and 4m, there are the like terms there. So I'm going to take 16 plus 6m equals, it looks like a negative 8 and 4 are the like terms here. So it's a negative 4 plus 16m. So you know you're doing a problem right. As you do the work, the problem should get simpler and simpler and simpler. Okay, let's subtract 16 from each side. I want to get this to go to 0. I'm keeping my variables on the left, so I do the opposite. Subtract 16 from here. That will give me a negative 20. Remember, if they are the same sign, you add the numbers and keep the sign. Now I want to take this to 0, so do the negative 16m. Takes it to 0. Do the negative 16m. Now, this is where the integer math. This is positive, this is negative. So you take the larger digit, subtract the smaller one from it. I get 10. So 10m. It'll be a negative 10m. So now, I end up with a negative 10m equals a negative 20. Divide each side by a negative 10. This goes to 1, so m equals 2. So really, really hard problem. That is definitely the hardest problem on the test. Alright, let's move to number 6. Okay, the negative multiplies in. It's like a negative 1 out front, so that'll be a negative n, a negative 4, and a negative 7. Now the 3 distributes to the n, distributes to the 3, so that will give me 3n plus 9. Okay, let's collect like terms here. Get these two numbers together, so a negative n, negative 11 equals 3n plus 9, or a positive 9. Let's take the negative 11 to 0, so we just use the 11. Make sure you have the different signs going on here to take it to 0. I'm going to do 11 here to balance the equation. Those two will give me a positive 20. Now let's get rid of the negative 3n on this side. So positive 3n, do the negative, that will go to 0. Now I want to balance the equation by doing it to the other side. A negative n and a negative 3. Remember there's like a 1 right there, so that will be a negative 4n equals 20. So negative 4n equals 20. We divide by negative 4 to each side. So n equals a negative 5. Okay, these next problems I think should be a little bit more easier for you, because this is the last stuff that we covered, and I kind of kept the algebra on this stuff really easy, where they're all just two-step equations, and I just really wanted you to focus on what was happening with the inequality rather than be so encumbered or involved with the algebra, so you could really see what was happening with the inequality. So a couple of things to remember on the inequality. You can see that I have a negative 3 here, so when it comes time to divide by that negative 3, I do it to both sides, so it's going to change the direction of that inequality. So as you go through and do these problems on the test, make sure that you're looking for that. You see there's another that's like a negative 1x. So I'm going to divide by a negative 1 to each side. That's going to have the same effect on this inequality. It's going to change its direction. Instead of it pointing away from x, it's going to point towards x. Down on here, same idea. So there's 3 equations right off the bat that I look at this test that you're going to end up changing the direction of the inequality. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me zoom in a little bit more, and we'll start number 7. So I've got 4 subtract 3r is less than or equal to 40. You treat this just like an equation. I want to keep the variable on the side that it's already on, so I'm going to subtract 4 from each side. That's a positive 4. I'm just going to keep the 4 and do the negative side of it, so that goes to 0. This becomes 36. 40 minus 4 is 36. Now look at my equation. 3r is less than or equal to 36. We need to divide by the negative 3 to each side. This goes to 1, which will give us r. 1 times r is r. Divide this by negative 3, and now I have r something negative 12, right? Well, we know it's less than right here, less than equal to, so if I divide by a negative number, that thing has to switch directions. So this is inequality. Now what you have to put in Canvas, I'm going to go ahead and graph this. So I got a negative 12. Remember that it's closed. It looks like I shade to the right. I have to color my dot in, because it's closed. Now you can't graph inside a canvas, so what I want you to do is give me the inequality. Then what I want you to do is to tell me if it's open or closed, and it's closed. And then what you need to do is shade to the right. So that's why I'm going to actually correct in Canvas, is what you see right there. Alright, let's do number 18. Out of the 4 inequalities, I think this is the easiest one. So I have 15 is less than or equal to a negative x. Subtract 4. I'm going to keep the x on the left-hand side. It makes the algebra a little bit easier to do. It's a negative 4, so I want to do a positive 4 to get it to go to 0. Then I will do the 4 over here to keep the equation balanced. That will give me 19. So now 19 is less than equal to a negative x, or negative x is greater than or equal to 19, right? Now I need to divide by a negative 1. You can't leave this x as a negative number. It has to be a positive number. So I divide each side by a negative 1, and doing that, this is going to switch directions. So now I have x is less than a negative 19. So x, there's my negative 19. It is closed.
Attention,
And now less than points to the left. All numbers on the left are smaller. So there's where my inequality goes as far as the graph. Okay, so now we figure out our Canvas answer. So our answer in Canvas would be, it's fine to do it this way. A negative 19 is greater than, equal to x, or x you could also write either way. X is less than or equal to a negative 19. It is closed. It's closed because of the equal bar underneath it, and then you shade to the left. Okay, that's the answer you can have in Canvas. And you only have to put one of these. It doesn't matter which one. Just use the one that you like. Either one of them is fine. Okay. Let's look at number 9. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the 6. Subtract 6 from each side. It's a positive 6, so I want to do a negative 6 to get it to go to 0. Then I balance the equation. Now these two things are the same sign, so add them and keep the sign. So that'll be a negative 54. So here's my inequality. I have a negative 54 is greater than 9p. Divide each side by 9. So now I have a negative 6 is greater than p, or you can write it as p is less than a negative 6. So here's a negative 6. It is open. Right, it's open, and I shade to the, now I said p is less than a negative 6. Now I've got to read this the correct way. Yeah, p is less than a negative 6, that's right. I thought I'd made a mistake, and you guys know that I can just quick as anything. Okay, so that's the way the shading should go. So this equation is open, and you shade to the left. Very good. Okay, the last one. Again, you can see we're going to be dividing by a negative number, so this inequality will switch. A negative 39 is greater than a negative 9 and a negative 5k. I'm going to add 9 to each side. 39 minus 9, right? They're different signs, so I subtract the bigger digits, the smaller digits from the bigger ones. So this will give me a negative 30. It's greater than a negative 5k. Now divide by a negative 5 to each side. And because I divided by a negative number, this has to switch. So I get 6 is less than k. Or I could write it as k is greater than 6. Alright, so we find 6. It looks like it's open. And then it looks like I shade. K is greater than 6, so greater numbers are to the right. So there's my graph. Now let's finish the Canvas stuff. So this is open, and I shade to the right. So that's what you're writing Canvas for your answer. Alright, so there's the key to the test that you can kind of look at. I went through every problem, showed you how to do it. Now granted, the test that you have will be a little bit different, but it should not be different enough that studying this will not help you get a better grade. So thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, come see me. Now what I would like to do is you come into an intervention, a pirate hour. Let me go over your old test, see what's going on, talk to you about it. If you feel good about it, you're going to have to come in after school and take it. If you have a study period or something like that, you could probably come in during a study period. But anyway, there's not enough time to take it during a pirate hour, so you're going to have to come in and take it. So thanks for tuning in. I'll get this thing posted on Canvas, and you guys can study it. And thanks, and have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.